Hey there, welcome to episode 112 of the Cafe Genius Impresarios audio program. I am your host, Dan Hugo. We're recording this at 12:30 in the afternoon on Friday, April 18, 2025. Today's title, Made in Vegas. What about manufacturing? What about factories? What about building things, making them and shipping them from Vegas? Could be. Let's talk about it. The Cafe Genius Impresarios audio program, if you've never been here before, if you've never listened in, is named for three important things. One, Cafe Centro, spelled with two F's, just like Cafe Genius. Cafe Centro, where startups start, was a cool little coffee shop in the South Park, physical park in the San Francisco city of, located very near the Oracle Ballpark. Used to be AT&T. It's actually where Twitter got started, but don't hold that against Cafe Centro, nor should you hold against them the fact that they are no longer in business. Sadly, I had been to Cafe Centro several times. It was a fine, quaint little establishment, and something of an epicenter now and then for innovation in the startup culture that was San Francisco. It might still be without Cafe Centro. Genius, as in the genius lunches we used to have in the downtown project days, me, a spectator, mostly traveling around on behalf of Intel Corporation. But when I was in town, maybe when I wasn't, also gatherings of those doing this and that and the other thing, and conversations, who's working on what's happening, what's up, what's down, etc., etc. It was a good idea. They should make a comeback, actually. Cafe Genius and then Impresarios. Those are people who are doing cool things, spelled with two S's. I got to work on the S noise. I think I've got plosives, but the S I think peaks too much. So apologies. One of these days I'll dial in all of this stuff after. I think I've produced 360 episodes of my various audio programs or something like that, something crazy. But this episode 112 on this, the 18th of April, 2025. Hopefully, wherever you found this audio program, you're able to locate the episode description, which contains the show notes, a summary of today's episode, which I will read to you. It's very brief today. And then the links for today's episode, a total of 6. 3 are the shameless self-promotion links of your host, that's me. And 3 are relevant links for today's topic, Made in Vegas. So let's get started. The sooner we begin, the sooner we can hit the weekend. And if you're an entrepreneur, you know that the weekend is just 2 more days to work on your startup. But that's not Vegas for everybody. The show notes, thus, summary. Believe it or not, this episode is somewhat optimistic, with some possibilities that make sense bubbling up to the actual news reporting here in the Greater Vegas area. Namely, you won't read this, I'm saying it right now. Namely, the possibility of manufacturing and the training of a manufacturing workforce before it's needed here in the Greater Vegas area. Go figure. The shameless self-promotion links I mentioned, hopefully you are already familiar. You don't have to spend any money on any of these. I use them as engagement resources for my huge audience across my various audio programs. Buymeacoffee.com/Dan Hugo, DANHUGO. I use it as sort of a link tree. It's a free-form profile page, links to my various audio programs, links to my GitHub repositories for various projects, affiliate links to my favorite coffee beans. Some of them happen to be available on Amazon. And right at the top of the page, you will find a little bit of a biographical rundown of me. And then right above that, you'll find a link to the posts section on Buy Me a Coffee, which I've also linked to here, the Buy Me an Update link. So buymeacoffee.com/danhugo/posts, POSTS. There you will find in Buy Me an Update a 5-minute or less weekly rundown on the previous week's episodes of audio programming and any announcements or upcoming this, that, or the other thing. Buy Me an Update available exclusively on buymeacoffee.com in the posts section of my profile. Check that out if you want. And again, no obligation to spend any money. It's just a convenient place to reach my audience and other people. As well, the Ko-fi.com/Dan Hugo. I say Ko-fi like that to emphasize that it is not coffee, buymeacoffee.com spells coffee in the usual way. Ko-fi, K-O hyphen, that's the key next to the 0 on most keyboards. Ko-fi, ko-fi.com/Dan Hugo. Here I've just discovered, I for some reason believed, and this may have been true, I don't really know, that Ko-fi did not support hosting audio, but they do. They support video links. I don't know. One of these days I will actually make the most of the Ko-fi platform. In the meantime, I'm conjuring some ideas for using the audio hosting feature of Ko-fi. Ko-fi. Anyway, enough about me. These are 2 sampling links. That is, there are probably many of these links and probably not so easily found. In fact, this first one, I stumbled upon it in a Google News feed when I searched on the 8 News Now website using their search tools. I searched for the word manufacturing, which appears in the headline, and it did not appear in the search results. So that's encouraging. But manufacturing workforce development starting now. So if you read this article on 8 News Now, Las Vegas residents desired in growing manufacturing industry. It's not a good headline. It's not, doesn't make sense. Henderson is actually finding its way, bringing some manufacturing, and Amazon has a fulfillment facility there. There's a lithium ion battery manufacturing plant, and I cannot remember what it's called. It's Lithion, I think. Lithion, as in lithium ion. And there will be more, and Google has some compute infrastructure there, if I recall correctly. So Henderson might be up and coming in this area, but generally speaking, there will be a desire to have more people capable of manufacturing things, working in factories, working on factory technology and all the associated support infrastructure, logistics, operations, supply chain management, et cetera, et cetera. So interesting article. And again, one point in time, which I'll get into. But I just found this interesting. This is a more current article, and then an older article from about 2 months ago. North Las Vegas is growing their manufacturing focus, I guess, their resources that are available there. So yet another business opening a new facility that has happened now and then over the past months and even a couple of years. So it looks like the greater Vegas area, which always includes basically Clark County, and Clark County may even be renamed if that ever catches on. I've read some things that the Clark County Commission would love to rename Clark County as Vegas County or Las Vegas County. And then everybody would always be in Las Vegas, regardless of administrative boundaries. As I always point out, the Welcome to Las Vegas sign is not in Las Vegas, nor is the Las Vegas airport, et cetera, et cetera. So another article there. And again, these are 2, and I'll get into this in a moment. They're just 2 of hopefully several news articles and a lot of reporting on this, although that's not total. I wouldn't hold my breath. But these are just 2 items in a list of things and possibilities over the past couple of months and years. And then who knows what's coming up in the future. So we shall see. And the final link is unfortunately an Instagram link because their website is a 404, not found. But the Tipsy Robot bartender, it's at the Tipsy Robot bar, I guess, in the Miracle Mile shops on the Strip. It's something that I will talk about later, but it's essentially automation in action. Who knew that people would want to see a robot make a drink for them or make their sneakers or whatever, right? Watching robots work could be a thing. So let's get started. The 2 links for articles, just a sampling. I want to start off by saying that the 2 articles are just samples. They're not comprehensive deep dive. They are just 2 articles. Hopefully there are many more, like I said. There are 2 things to consider here. Local press is just not great at covering this sort of stuff. They might cover the construction or purchase of manufacturing facilities, warehouses, and so on. They love real estate here. And the only thing they love better than building things is imploding them. Or they might cover a big company conducting business in this area, Google, Amazon. There's a couple other ones, but those get a lot of attention. I think Microsoft has a couple of empty seats at the co-work space. Bigelow Aerospace doesn't really do anything here anymore. Maybe they do. Who knows? The aliens. But they are historically, the local media, are historically not great at covering trends or details in these areas. They're not good at connecting the dots. While manufacturing is not, and the second point, while manufacturing is not completely a new idea here in the greater Vegas area, these are still early days. Hopefully there will be a useful source of information about this and other developments in the direction of economic diversity efforts. That is, if there will be these new additions to the family outside of the fun economy, the fun economy does get a lot of attention, as is. So if there are going to be other components to our diverse economy, hopefully they will figure out a way to cover these things so that the people who are actually interested in them will be able to find information. And again, I will point out that the article regarding the interest in residents, Las Vegas residents, that article was found through Google, whatever mechanisms, not actually on any homepage at the 8 News Now website or in any section that I could find, search engine. I'm sure it's there. I'm sure if you could stumble upon it, but we do not do, as if I can speak for all of us, we do not enjoy quite the same level of information availability as was the case in Silicon Valley back in the day. So we need to do a lot of work in that area. So hopefully if these things, if the wheels begin to turn, there will be more interest and therefore more coverage. Or hey, maybe somebody like me who's working on something that will do these sorts of things in different ways might tackle this, probably. Hint. There are bills passing through our state legislature presently concerning the so-called Hollywood 2.0 effort. And it turns out the Senate Bill 220, SB 220, has become more interesting as it is expanded into funding a more diverse development effort into media production or product, if you're a typo person like me, media production, aerospace development, AI, and other such things. So they're basically broadening how they want to spend money to develop infrastructure to pursue these verticals. Basically, today is a point in time. The near term will be telling. And we'll see, first of all, we'll see how those bills do. There's a assembly bill, and I don't recall the number. It's focused more on studio tax credits and so on for facilities that are being built in Summerlin, which is the west part of Vegas. Obviously, regardless of what we read about today and what might already be in place historically, the near-term future may be completely streamlined or complete chaos. So to restate this, we are at a point in time. And so here are some observations based on what appears to be on the table presently. And I will say that some of what I'm about to talk about is familiar to some and will be to others in the future because I'm pretty much on message the whole time. Planning is good. I spoke about this in a previous episode or two, maybe more, about how the next Silicon Valley is more likely to be in Utah or Arizona, with preference to Arizona actually, based not only on the presence of actual chip fabrication facilities in those states, and there are more of them in Arizona, but the pro-action we see in both of these states with arguably more programs and programs that have been more forward-looking. That is to say, there are more programs and there are more forward-looking programs than here in Nevada. Nevada is very, and this is not to say that never, but there's a long way to go, and posts on LinkedIn don't actually do anything. I have referred specifically to the addition of biotech. Let me fix a quick typo here. The addition of biotech, especially genetics, in the Arizona economy, in their tech catalog, I guess, some 20 years ago, when TGen, that's translational genomics, and I think it was Genentech, they have since moved their headquarters to San Francisco, and they're in a couple of other states. I think they still have a presence in Arizona from what I've read, but I don't believe they're in the same facilities that they broke ground on. But they were breaking ground. It was about 20 years ago, a little bit more than that. No, I think it was. Yeah, let's call it 20 years ago. 20 years, that sounds right. So they're breaking ground in the central Arizona area, Tempe, near Arizona State University. And the university system started rolling out biotech research curriculum programs. So you could actually pursue research degrees and postgraduate work and so on toward corresponding focal areas in genetics and related biotech. And the Maricopa County Community College system introduced focus on lab technician work and other related vocations, so vocational training, associate's degrees, and so on, that would fit into the workforce needs of these new genetics technology companies. So this was a concerted effort that brought this new vertical into the Arizona economy and workforce in a structured and sensible way. And they started training people to work in these places while they were building the facilities that would bring these companies to the area. So imagine that, planning ahead. So here, based on the 8 News Now article in the link section, we have similar thinking, maybe, to build a workforce as the vertical becomes viable in the greater Vegas area. Now, not viable, but as it becomes more a component that gets attention in our diversified economy. So I think sometimes people believe I'm saying there's none of these things here. What I do mean is, by comparison to, if you're going to say this is the next Silicon Valley, or like, we're not there yet. We're not even close. So you could call the greater Vegas area a manufacturing hub, but maybe it wants to head in that direction. And at least they're getting started now. As I've said before, importing talent is expensive. We should be thinking locally about our education and workforce training. Perhaps this is one example. Hope so. If this works, if it starts to show promise early on, perhaps there will be eventually agreement that you really kind of have to begin planting the seeds of a innovation culture and an entrepreneurial bent around 7th grade, age 12, give or take. You can't wait until, your late 30s. I wonder if I should become entrepreneurial. Although you still can. Production by a street, emergency vehicles to the rescue. So employees versus entrepreneurs. Now, I would be remiss if I did not point out that we should be enabling entrepreneurs. We should be enabling innovators and, of course, entrepreneurial innovators. Of course. Training a workforce to do that work for others is one path, but let us not forget there are others. And I've pointed this out before previously as well. The education system in Southern Nevada has traditionally or historically been focused on training employees, establishing baseline job skills and general knowledge that would enable employees to function. Maybe that's the economy of old. We will find out. If there is indeed a push in the near and medium terms to reshore manufacturing, that seems to be the messaging today. Reshore as in bring back manufacturing that was outsourced to other countries for cost reductions and so on and so on. So to relight the fires of domestic production, and the U.S. is not out of the manufacturing business, believe it or not. We are the second largest manufacturer of things. First place is China. It is more a matter of the types of things made in the U.S. So there may be a diversification of the types of manufacturing of things in the near term. It will obviously make sense to include this path as an option here in the greater Vegas area as part of the educational curriculum, and especially in vocational training programs. So training people to know how to make things, how factories work, and then obviously all the adjacent requirements, the logistics and operations, like I said, managing supply chains, everything about making physical things. It's harder to do that in a coffee shop unless you're making coffee, unlike software startup, building websites, content creation. That said, if there is to be a reshoring effort at scale that is broadly nationwide, there will certainly be opportunities to innovate in the areas of manufacturing and its related, adjacent requirements. It will be a great thing if those interested to be able to explore opportunities. So if you're interested in actual innovation in manufacturing, the ability to explore opportunities in the manufacturing, innovation, and adjacent area spaces, and again, logistics, supply chains, automation, and so on, that would be a good thing. And that's something that could actually be a focal area in the education and vocational training resources that we have here in Vegas, whether we have them or may have them someday. As I have said many times, many times, and will continue to say many more times, starting now is the second best option, since we cannot start 25 years ago to develop our innovation culture and to expand our workforce and job skills training. Speaking of automation, recently, this is getting more attention, but the Cato Institute conducted a study in the US in 2024, concluding that some 80%, or give or take, of Americans are in favor of more manufacturing, i.e. factory jobs within the United States, but only about 20, I think it was actually 23%, feel that they themselves would like to work at such jobs. That is, people want more factories, but they want someone else to work in them. Well, okay. The study has been getting some attention contemporaneously, given the state of affairs with the Trump administration. With the U.S., skipped a line, with the U.S. place in the global economy coming into question, and the idea raised by those in the Trump administration, see how that works, that more manufacturing should and will take place within the United States, and at least some of that manufacturing will be done by robots, or more generally through automation. The Tipsy robot, see why I put that link in there, if it is still in business, and their website is 404, so I'm not sure, their Instagram account, as I'm speaking right now, has a post from 13 weeks ago. So who knows? One of these days I will stop in the Miracle Mile shops and I'll check it out for myself, and then we'll find out. But the Tipsy robot is something that has been a topic of discussion for years. I think since I first moved to Vegas, somebody was talking about a robot bartender, blah, blah, blah. The notion of replacing bartenders with robots, I got to tell you, I've never been a fan. I think part of the reason that you have bartenders is to have the social engagement, the interaction, even if it's not, you may not go to a bar to talk to the bartender, but being friendly with the bartender can be helpful if you're looking to meet someone, et cetera, et cetera. The bartender is kind of the captain of the ship. They can make or break an evening, et cetera. I have never been a fan of that, the robots, but now in the Vegas area with self-driving vehicles, let me fix a little typo here. We have self-driving vehicles. We have some autonomous drones. We have the Tipsy robot, of course, or maybe still. It's almost certainly room for robotic automation to become an area of focused development and innovation in the greater Vegas area, maybe in manufacturing. So factory floor robots could be a thing, software to do quality control and so on. That usually involves cameras and sensors, maybe x-rays, etc. So there's all kinds of possibilities to streamline and optimize and generally advance and innovate in the space of factories, factory automation, general manufacturing. So possibilities. Now I will say, based on my experience, hardware is hard. It's right there in the name. During my time in the real Silicon Valley, I actually spent a lot of my career years working on or around hardware products. Netscape, browser company, was an example of pure software. I only worked at a few. Netscape and Salon were software only. Salon was an online magazine, and I think they're still in business. But I worked at Supermac, TrueVision, SEM Microsystems, Umax, Philips, Palm, Jawbone, later Intel, and more. And these were all hardware companies. Where the LVGEA folks, and that's the Las Vegas Global Economic Alliance, where they, and maybe other agencies like Generator and Startup NV in the accelerator space, and maybe even the GOED, the Governor's Office of Economic Development, to some degree, and maybe even others, are thinking software companies are easier to stand up. And they are, usually, with less need for infrastructure, and anybody can do it, and you can do it from, you can be remote, so you don't even need office space. Any coffee shop will do, and so on. So yeah, the next unicorn could be hanging out at the Dig It coffee shop in the Arts District right now. It appears that there will be a focus not only on building things, but on actual money spent on physical plants, buildings, to facilitate some R&D and other work towards tangible things like actual factories. This wide net cast, a good idea, or maybe spreading too thin these efforts? Not really sure. It remains to be seen what will actually come of these ideas, though building buildings takes longer than building apps in a coffee shop. The timelines for various foci, I never knew how to say that word. One of these days I'll check. FOCI, focus, the plural, varies. I think it's foci. Varies and will perhaps settle out over time. So we'll just find out. Now the only thing would be if our infrastructure plans impinge on the fun economy. So they put service industry and other fun economy jobs at risk if they increase the cost of living. So it prices people out. And this has happened in Austin, for example. We've talked about this previously. So we'll see. We'll see how things unfold. The other thing about hardware, though, is that it's always a physical concern. What does that mean? Building an office building for software development becomes a steady state development of services. You could do the same with your accounting department, your HR department, your receiving. Well, they have physical objects to deal with. Shipping and receiving, though, they're kind of a case by case. But your accounting, your HR, your customer service, your sales, your marketing, these are all services. So they're just doing things. They're not making things, so to speak. Hang on. If you have a factory, you become a steady state operations and logistics challenge with inputs of raw materials and sub-assemblies, outputs of finished goods or other sub-assemblies for other parts of a development and construction chain, manufacturing supply chain, and the movement of these things in a timely manner. You have to do shipping and receiving for real, like at scale. Growing a manufacturing sector with factories and transportation of raw materials and finished goods, and all these entail, all that goes into those things, will be interesting to watch over the coming years here in Vegas. And things like rail, there is some trains that come in with cargo, and someday we'll have that Bright Line passenger train that goes to LA. But we're talking moving serious cargo. If you're going to be manufacturing things, you have to be able to get them out. Transport by air is usually the most expensive way to even imagine. So truck, 18-wheeler, truck and rail. Yeah, we're landlocked, so we don't have any shipping in ships, but getting goods to, say, the port in Long Beach or to New Mexico or to Utah or other southwestern states or to other places more greater distances, domestically or internationally, those become challenges, logistical challenges, moving things around. And this will always be the case. When you're in manufacturing, you cannot email your products as you can with software or other service jobs. So it'll be interesting to see how that works out. And I'm not saying that we don't already have manufacturing here. We're not already working in those areas. But if it becomes a real factor in our diversified economy, then it will be interesting to see how our always under construction roadways are working, how our existing rail infrastructure will suffice, and so on. So the interesting thing will be fitting the pieces together. Pardon me. Now, I have mentioned this previously as well. I repeat myself a lot. The Greater Vegas area, with its fun economy, trademark, draws a very large population of visitors to the area, approximately 40 million people annually, although we'll see if that drops off with a reduction in tourism in general for the United States. And manufacturing is not necessarily fun, though Amazon does offer tours of at least one fulfillment facility here in the area, and it's on my bucket list, so one of these days I'll check it out. So like a lot of the non-fun stuff we already have in the Greater Vegas area, focus on manufacturing could just be another vertical, just another business. I always tell people if they ask, "Oh, do you live in Las Vegas? Do you just gamble and go to concerts and hang out on?" Well, no. There are other things in Vegas. There's like a real city with real people and businesses and hospitals and schools, and so you can ask people in Anaheim if they go to Disneyland every day. Maybe. On the other hand, if Greater Vegas can focus on manufacturing innovation, this may actually be something that could draw a crowd, a nerdy or maybe eccentric crowd, but automation and robots and AI and efficient factory floors and all that could actually be interesting. It could align with trade shows, and there's a certain type of visitor to some of the trade shows, NAB, CES, even SEMA, some of the bigger shows that draw a crowd that might be interested in how systems work and actually seeing them up close. Maybe a new tagline: a lot of things do not stay in Vegas, or something like this. With Nevada, certainly Southern Nevada, already focused productively on water conservation and sustainability in general, and that is an actual thing. Water, when it comes to water conservation research and water sustainability and resource sustainability in general, Southern Nevada is a formidable research competitor, if there is such a thing. there may be some real opportunities to not only stand up factories that are resource efficient here in Southern Nevada, but with a bit more research and focus, perhaps innovation in factories and automation could sprout from the greater Vegas area, taking on factory cultures, and that is the production and optimization of factories in the factory cultures found in China, especially Guangdong, and in Japan, and especially Japan's robotics programs, and Sony and others have been at this for decades, and Germany with their attention to precision and so on, and other such places. So Made in Vegas might actually catch on. And that whole Made in Vegas stamp could be on the factory itself. And that would be interesting, wouldn't it? And that is where I'm going to leave today's episode. Just something to think about, sort of a line in the sand. Incomplete information on the state of affairs with manufacturing at scale. It will be interesting to see how the state legislature decides and what gets signed into law as far as funding and general direction, expanding the footprint of academia and tangible research on something other than the fun economy. And how will all this fit into the fun economy? I think that's a great question. And I think fitting the fun economy and the diverse economy will be important. If you sacrifice the fun economy, that is pricing people out, increasing cost of living, lowering the quality of the experience, increasing prices on everything, which, by the way, is starting to get some attention. Everything is getting more expensive here in Vegas. And so that will be interesting to see what effect it has on tourism in general, not to mention general, especially international tourism, possibly taking a downturn for a while, and so on and so on. So it'll be an interesting time. So really, this is for posterity. And of course, my voice has been arguing with me the whole time, so I apologize for that. One of these days, I will have a consistent radio voice, and it'll match the rest of me. Everything is good for radio. And that's where I'm going to leave it. So have a good weekend. If you're listening to this on a Friday, any Friday will do. And in fact, have a good weekend whenever you're listening to this. We all deserve at least that. Take care.